Hi everyone, it's Brittany from By Brittany Goldwyn. I post videos about projects and plants, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite garden perennials. If you ever talk to me about my garden, I will tell you to plant catmint. If you are anywhere near where I am, that is in Maryland Zone 7A, but catmint thrives in a variety of grow zones. So today we're going to be talking about how to take an existing catmint plant and grow more of it, aka plant propagation. This is a very easy one to propagate, so I'd like to show you how you can fill your garden with it, a wonderful ground cover that the bees absolutely love without having to buy any more of it. So this right here is a big grouping of catmint plants. This is actually only 3 plants, and I purchased these plants last year on an end of season clearance sale. They were like 50 cents to $1 each, and they have totally exploded back here. They look amazing. This is my back perennial garden, and all I wanted them to do was cover a lot of surface area, and they certainly did. I have dug some of them up to spread them around the yard, different places, anywhere that I really want more ground cover. Any mulched areas where I'm looking to choke out some weeds, I dig up some catmint and separate it and plant it elsewhere. I'm going to show you though how to root some cuttings to plant new plants. Fall is a really great time where I live in Zone 7A to transplant perennials. Really, fall is a great place to transplant perennials wherever fall is for where you live. And it's also a great plant to propagate and share with friends who are looking to get into gardening. Fantastic pollinator attractor to plant around your veggie beds. I have it up near my veggie beds as well. So let's get started with how to take a cutting. So the first thing I'm going to do here is locate a stem that does not have any flowers on it. This plant does have beautiful purple to bluish flowers. It's generally not flowering this time of year, but you can see some of my stems still have some nice flowers and some nice color on them. We're going to look for one that doesn't. This is a really good candidate right here. This stem, I'm going to take a couple while I'm back here, and because whenever I propagate plants, I like to take a few different cuttings to root in the same pot, because no plant propagation is ever going to be 100% successful. At least mine aren't, and I also like to have a bit of an insurance policy trying to root more cuttings than I either think I'll need or that I think may survive, just based on my experience propagating plants in the past and what I think are some of the easier plants to propagate and the harder plants to propagate. So I've got a bundle of cuttings here. I'm going to head up to the potting bench and show you how to strip the leaves off the bottom and add them to soil. Okay, so I'm all set up here with my cuttings for the next step, and the next step is to remove the leaves from the bottom of each cutting. So to do that, this one has a couple of different growth points here. You'll take the cutting, see down here, remove those leaves, and here, remove those leaves. So you can just gently strip them off. It's honestly not rocket science. Just pull them off like that. Leave a couple sets of leaves on the top. I like to pull off everything but like maybe 1 to 2 inches of growth on the top. And the reason for that is because when you're trying to root plant cuttings, you really want the plant to be focusing its energy on developing new roots under the surface. You don't want it to be focusing on maintaining all of the growth that it already has. You know a propagation is successful when you've had it in soil for a while and you've kept it moist and you begin to see new growth. And the reason for that is because the plant is no longer expending its energy developing a root system. It has a great root system, so now it is ready to give you some new growth. So I've pulled all the bottom leaves off of these cuttings. I am going to trim them down a little bit more just because the pots I'm using are not that deep. So maybe like down to here. Right here. And then I'm going to pot these up together in one pot just to save some space, and I'll show you how to do that next. The next thing I'm going to be doing is filling up a little pot with soil. Now for these little pots, I just use like a typical well-draining potting soil. I really like Fox Farm Ocean Forest. I keep a big bag of it for my houseplants and my garden transplants all the time. And sometimes I'll mix in a little bit of leaf compost, just depending on what it is I'm planting. So I've got my pot here full of soil. I've already pre-moistened it just to make it a little bit easier to stick these guys down in. And then that's literally all we're going to do, is stick them down into the soil about to there so that all of those growth points are covered and submerged in soil. I'm going to stick them all around the pot. Careful not to put them so low that the leaves on the cuttings are touching the soil line. This can lead to some problems when you're keeping the soil more moist than the plant is usually used to. And that one's kind of hard to stick down in, so let's pick another one. So get these pushed down in. And the stems on these are a little bit more fragile than some of the other plants that I've done propagation videos on. I've done videos on sage, rosemary, lavender. Those all have pretty sturdy stems, even when you're working with the tender new growth. Ooh, that one broke. It was so fragile. So I'll try and save this one by just clipping off that broken end, stripping off these leaves here, and then sticking her down on in. And there we go. So we've got a pot here full of catmint cuttings. Just make sure to keep this moist, keep it in a warm, bright place, and start tugging on the cuttings after maybe a couple of weeks to check for root development. What I would then recommend doing is dumping the whole pot out and inspecting each of the cuttings very carefully so you don't break off any root growth, but inspecting them individually so you can see, like, is there any rot on any of the cuttings? Are any of these cuttings showing really promising signs of root growth already? If so, I would recommend potting that cutting up to its own pot so that it has plenty of room to root and grow as it's developing. So I will check in on these in a little bit to show you guys the root growth process. Hi there, we are cutting to the future to check in on the progress with our catmint. So I can already see that all of the cuttings look super healthy and they have some fresh new growth on top. So I'm excited to take them out of the soil to see what the roots look like. Okay, here is the first cutting we're looking at. Hopefully that can focus. This one has some awesome root growth on it. Looking good. Check another one here. This one too. Looks great and healthy at the top. Has some awesome root growth on the bottom. Let's go through these to see our success rate here. Here's another one. This one has a little bit less root growth, but still has the growth. This one's looking really good here. Looking good. And then this one also is looking good. So far the only one that's not showing any root growth is this little one right here, which I would call a success because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 out of the 6 cuttings that I have rooted, that I wanted to root, have successfully rooted. So since it has gotten pretty cold here in Maryland, I'm going to show you the setup that I've been using to root these cuttings. Even though it is best practice to propagate plants in the spring and summer, it is obviously fall here right now. It is late November now in Maryland, Zone 7A. So I'll show you what I'm doing in my greenhouse, which I only keep heated now to like 42, 43 degrees, even though it hasn't really gotten much colder than that at night now. All right, so I've got all of my little catmint plants potted up separately, and I put them in my greenhouse within a greenhouse, which is essentially just this little wire frame plastic cover greenhouse. They are still sitting on a seedling heat mat just to help those roots get some heat and develop a little bit more since it's late November here in Maryland. Again, not the best time to propagate plants, but I like to propagate year round, and I found that this seedling heat mat does a great job of generating just enough heat to trap inside of this little area for these plants to be happy. So that is it. That's how you propagate catmint. This is one of those plants that I love running through the local plant nurseries at the end of the growing season to get those clearance plants, usually for like 50 cents to $1 is how I've gotten most of my catmint. But if you have a little patience in a healthy plant or a friend with a healthy plant, you can certainly grow your own. It takes a little bit longer to get those mature plants, but it is an easy one to root. So I highly recommend trying your hand at propagating if you think a year from now you may want a bunch of catmint in your garden, which I know I do because because it's a fantastic ground cover and the bees love it, and I just love plugging it in everywhere around my yard. So I hope you all found this video useful. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and until my next video, happy planting!